We'll call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Cody, would you do a roll call of the board, please?
Supervisor Milky,
Here.
Trustee Bills,
Here.
Trustee Brown,
Here.
Trustee Smith,
Here.
Trustee Thering,
Here.
Clerk Cody here, Treasurer Rice is excused.
Thank you. That brings us to item 4 on the agenda, approval of the agenda. Happy to entertain any motions.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Smith, support by Cody. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda passes unanimously. We have no presentations tonight. However, item 6 on the agenda, we do have a public hearing this evening regarding the application to transfer the Industrial Facilities Tax Exemption Certificate 2018-003 from Birch Tank and Truck, Inc. to Bandit Industries, Inc. And with that, we'll open up the public hearing at 7:01 p.m. And if anybody would like to address the public, they can state their name and address for the record, please.
No one's online.
Thank you.
My name is James McBride, live at 2130 Flagstone in Union Township here. And just wanted to state Middle Michigan Development Corporation's total support for this action you're taking tonight. We're thrilled with the expansion of Bandit into Union Township and what this is going to mean for our residents. I just wanted to be on the record that we had strong support for this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Zender. I'm from Bandit Industries. I'm the CFO and refer to our new project over in Union Township as Bandit East because we have a Bandit West and we have the main campus. So just makes it easy for us. If there's any questions that you might have, we're looking forward to having a nice and long-term relationship with Union Township and have some plans to go on with Bandit East. So if you have any questions, feel free. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still no one online?
No.
Seeing no one else coming forward, last call. Seeing no one else coming forward, we'll close the public hearing at 7:03 p.m. That brings us to item 7 on the agenda, public comment. Public comment is restricted to items on this agenda and to 3 minutes. Again, if you choose to address the public, please state your name and address for the record. And with that, we'll open up public comment at 7:03 p.m.
Still no one online.
Thank you. So if you wish to speak again, you're welcome to. But seeing no one coming forward, I realized I made an error in the agenda a bit. I skipped our commissioner on presentations.
No.
Let me close public comment at this point at 7:04 p.m. Is there any objection by this board to
No.
go back to presentations? Commissioner Engler, please.
Oh, okay. I won't take much of your time, but I'm just going to stick with good news tonight, so that's good. So yeah, I've been on the Parks Board for ever since I've been a commissioner, and we just received $319,000 Spark grant to do the Meridian or the park up at Herrick. So it's one of our gyms that needs a lot of work. So the bathroom's going to be updone. We're going to get probably some more camping spaces in there. There's a lot that can be done with that. So very excited. We've been working on that for a couple of years now. Of course, you guys know that we finally closed the property on the Meridian.
Yeah.
So that's going to open that up to do a lot of things. So we've done a lot of work at Deerfield, and cold water seems to be the
That is awesome.
If I have any other questions, we've just been doing kind of board stuff, so nothing really too exciting. So I'll take any questions if you have anything.
I'll just make a comment for you. Two of my adjacent neighbors both go to Herrick Park on a regular basis for camping. And I kind of indicated to them that that was on the wish list for the county to do some upgrades there. So it's great news. And they were really excited about the opportunity to have additional upkeep or new resources put into that park.
They're going through their 5-year plan, so if everybody has a chance, you go on the county website, you go to the Parks and Rec, and they have a survey to fill out.
Did they fix it?
Pardon?
Did they fix it?
I got it the other day and it worked, so,
It did?
yes.
You filled it out?
I did fill it out.
I'm not trying to be back.
So I'm biased. It's not
No,
really-
because you could only select one on some of those, and I called them up and they said that it was broken, so they sent you a new.
I didn't break it, honestly. Okay. I get blamed for a lot of things, but I really.
Oh,
don't.
no,
So,
it was the vendor.
I didn't have any problem with this, so maybe they fixed it.
Excellent work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for the short stop, back to number 5 on the agenda, but that brings us to item 9 on the agenda, report boards and comments, list of boards and commissions. We do have an opening coming up at the end of this year for the Chippewa District River Library. I probably said those words in the wrong order. In any event, we have an application from Ruth Hellweg, who has sat on that board for some time. My preference has been to try to leave these open longer. If someone would like to move on that application tonight, we can do that. Otherwise, we can do that at a later meeting.
I'd like to appoint Ruth. I think I'd like to move to appoint Ruth Hellwig for another term on the CRDL board.
Support.
We have a motion.
I don't know the end date, so I'm sorry.
Can find out real quick for you.
Okay, thanks.
That would be good to be put as part of your motion if you would.
Yes, yes, sir.
I see the end date being 27, 12/31/27.
For a term ending 12/31/27.
Support.
We have a motion on the floor to appoint Ruth Hellwig to the CDRL until 12/31/2027. Any other comments? I will say that whenever those board members come here and give presentations, I've really enjoyed it. I think they do a fabulous job. I think we're very fortunate to have the couple people that we have on that board serving. They're the right people for that job, I think.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor to appoint Ruth Hellwig to the CRDL, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. She's appointed unanimously. Thank you, Trustee Bills.
Yes, sir.
Board member reports. Trustee Thering?
Nothing to report, sir.
Trustee
Nothing
Smith?
tonight.
Trustee Bills?
Of course I have something to report. My board meets every 2 weeks. I'm sorry. I was at the Isabella County Board of Commissioners meeting on October 3rd, and it was really exciting. They had Community Mental Health for Central Michigan do a presentation, and they mentioned that they served 10,700 people last year, whereas they usually are serving at any given time 5,300 people. So they're really busy, and they're doing a lot of good work for people. But the agency spends about $35 million in this area. But, our Isabella County only has to pay $216,000 towards it, so that's good. The other thing is, the inmate health care services, it's just an anecdote, but they served 7,000 inmate contact visits last year. So that's a really big healthcare contract, and they renewed that. And they also, and I don't know if we're interested in this, but I thought it was a great idea. they approved to pay their part-time people for the holidays that they're scheduled on. So I think that's pretty cool, you know, so that, you know, they don't just lose out, you know. So they did that, and I thought that was cool. Okay, so there was a problem though. I had a little bit of a problem with that we required I heard in the meeting from the director of the Commission on Aging that we required them to get a notarized letter which was registered with the Register of Deeds stating they will properly operate and maintain the sewer system for the pickleball pavilion. And so it's delaying the project because of this letter. And I thought that was pretty picky, honestly. I just wanted to mention that. It really didn't really shed good light on us. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Jesus. So, and then that's about, that's all I'm gonna mention
Thank
today.
you.
I'm sorry about the phone. Oh, everybody dinner.
And I have nothing else to report on as well. With that, we'll close board member reports. We have a memo from Treasurer Rice on here. Do you know, with Treasurer Rice being absent, if there needs to be anything addressed that at all?
There's no action by the board that's necessary. The statute requires a notification by the treasurer to the Board of Trustees of the delinquencies for these special assessments that are referenced in the letter, and that's to set up, if you will, a board action item at the next meeting where you'll have the opportunity to decide, vote on whether or not you want the delinquencies that will exist at that time placed on the winter tax roll.
Thank you. Any questions on that?
That's really self-explanatory to me.
Moving on to item 10 on the agenda, consent agenda. Happy to entertain any motions regarding that.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
A motion by Bills, support by Smith.
I was
Trustee
not
Thame, you
able to
had
get
warrants?
in. I was not able to get in to do the warrants before now, so I will be doing them after the meeting, directly after the meeting.
I'm just looking at those that did the motion support, if there's any.
I don't
I
have
have
a
no
problem with
concerns.
it. No.
Okay.
Would you like me to send an email out to everyone once I'm done? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor of consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes unanimously. That brings us to new business, item A. This is regarding what we had the public hearing on earlier, the application to transfer the industrial facilities tax exemption certificate 2018-003 from Birch Tank and Truck, Inc. to Bandit Industries, Inc. Mr. Stuhldreher, do you have anything you'd like to introduce on this?
Well, just to provide the board and the public a little background, in late 2017, the Board of Trustees adopted a resolution that approved industrial facilities tax exemption for, at the time, Birch Tank. And they were, at the time, building, expanding on the facility, adding 22,000 square feet of manufacturing space. They were investing over $1 million. The IFT was approved for a 12-year term. It provides for what essentially is a 50% reduction of the taxes that are paid by the taxpayer. Then in more recently, Bandit bought the property, and there is a mechanism to transfer the existing facility to the new owner, and that requires a public hearing, which you held earlier tonight. Also, with the certificate that's currently on the books, there's an agreement between the business and the township regarding the amount of investment and employees, and that agreement is going to flow through also to the new owner, Bandit. So in essence, we're taking the certificate that exists and the agreement that existed with Birch Tank and transferring that to Bandit, and that will allow Bandit to take advantage of the 50% tax reduction. The terms of the agreement have not changed. The fact that Bandit, they both begin with B, I'm sorry, has come in. They've already made investments. They've already brought in new hires. So they've essentially met the requirements of the agreement. So that's background. There's a memo and a report that began on page 23 of your agenda packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions. You did hear from a representative from Bandit earlier this evening. I'd just like to say welcome. Glad to have you. Look forward to your to the relationship between the township and your company in the years to come. Be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to open and hold a hearing for and to adopt a resolution to authorize transfer of the previously approved industrial facilities tax exemption certificate 2018-003 to Bandit Industries Incorporated, and to approve the associated agreement of understanding with the Bandit Industries Incorporated and authorize the township manager to sign the agreement.
Support.
Motion by Brown, support by Bills. Discussion?
I think I'd like to echo Manager Stuhldreier's comments. I think Bandit's a great company, and really happy to have them here in the township. This is awesome.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are very excited. Thank you.
And it also appears the original job requirement back in 18 was 15 jobs, but Bandit plans on adding 80. So it's a huge benefit right there as well. An extra 65 jobs created.
Benefit.
Yep. Yep. We're happy to have you.
This is the HR director.
Oh.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, I'm glad as well that you're here, so thank you. Any other comments? We have a motion on the floor to approve the facilities tax exemption certificate. We'll do a roll call vote on that. Clerk Cody?
Supervisor Milky,
Aye.
Clerk Cody, yes. Trustee Bills,
Yes.
Trustee Thering,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Brown.
Yes.
All yeses.
Resolution passes unanimously. Congratulations. and thank you.
Congratulations
Yeah.
and welcome.
Thank you.
Have a great
Have a good
night.
guys.
Yeah, thanks for being here. That brings us to item 11B on the agenda. Consideration to approve a joint 9-day early voting agreement between the city and Union Township. I've kind of been briefed on this through a couple meetings, but I'm sure an introduction that between our clerk and or our manager, if you'd like to introduce this, I don't care either one or both.
Be happy to.
So this, the report begins on page 40 of your agenda packet. We're asking the board to consider two things, really. The adoption of a resolution designating an early voting center location, which if you looked at the report is Powers Hall at CMU, and then also to approve an early voting agreement for election services for that early voting site between the city of Mount Pleasant and Union Township. Early voting, as you know, 9-day early voting is part of the state constitution now. The legislature has adopted various rules and statutes to implement that. One of those is the allowance for more than one local unit of government to partner up and conduct a single joint voting site for both units of government. That's what's before you tonight, the city of Mount Pleasant and the township, the two clerks got together and chose Powers Hall for the location, centrally located, and then also the election service agreement between the two parties that addresses and defines the roles and responsibilities of the parties. And this is again to effectuate 9-day voting. The voting will be daytime only. It's in the report. I want to say it's 8 to 4 for those 9 days. No night times, no, I don't know if there's a weekend in there or not. I think there is. And I think that covers it. If you have any questions of myself or the township clerk, we'd be happy to answer them.
Trustee Bills?
I know I was at the commission meeting, but it just occurred to me, how did we get Powers Hall? And did CMU volunteer that, or are we paying for it?
The city set that up, and she had meetings, and they even had the fire marshal come out and check, make sure the parking's okay for the site. That was the one that took a little bit the longest.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, she secured it.
So the option of using traditional polling sites wasn't as good as using Powers Hall then, correct?
Correct, because we still need to set up for our regular voting days, or, for the election day.
Okay.
So we needed a different space for that.
Yep.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the county is assisting coordination with the other 15 townships,
Yeah.
correct? In fact, is it every municipality outside of the city and the township?
Yes.
So that would include like Village of Lake Isabella and City of Shepherd.
Only the city of Mount Pleasant and Union Township
Yeah.
were.
So am I wrong in stating that we were in a position where we had to come up with a solution?
Yeah.
I think it's a great solution. I think it's wonderful that Heather is willing to be the chairperson of this and run the show. That's amazing. Yeah.
I'm excited about this too.
Kudos to Clerk Cody for that.
Trustee Theron, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just, my concern was just the parking. The lot is usually pretty full from 8 to 4.
Yeah, we have all that. We have a parking person too,
Oh,
if need be.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To have somebody designated just for the parking.
For the 3
Fantastic.
people that are going to show up.
I think,
Yeah.
I like the idea, everything about
Never
it.
know.
That was just my only concern was if by chance you
Parking.
would get a large number of people at a certain time, there could be some difficulty with the parking.
But it's, come as you can.
Right, oh, absolutely.
It's 9 days, 8
Yep.
to 4.
Right,
If it's full, come back
Right.
later.
yeah,
You know.
fantastic. Thanks.
Right?
I did want to mention in my comments that the agreement calls for all the expenses to be split 50-50
Yep.
between the city and the
Yeah.
township.
Mm-hmm.
Which saves us on a lot of costs. A lot.
Oh, yeah. That's
It-
great.
And Powers Hall is also providing so you got safe and secure areas to store the equipment and everything else like that in the evenings and stuff. So there's not a question of somebody having access to any of the rooms.
Correct.
Okay.
Aren't the ballots taken away from there each night, or?
Yeah, those are in transfer
Yeah.
containers and will be
Mhm.
taken back and
Yeah.
locked up.
Thanks for all your
Oh.
work on this. I know it was a lot.
And then, did you want to tell the rest of the board about the printer?
Well, the new printers. I haven't seen them yet, so I don't know.
Oh,
but
okay, but it's pretty
they,
cool.
we will have new printers that print the ballots out. So, you're not just printing them out as you get it when the person comes up. You enter their name and see where the register at, and it will print their specific ballot style. So it will print out that one thing that will be linked, to them. So, it'll save a lot on cost too for ballots.
And it can store multiple jurisdictions in there, which is
Yeah.
freaking great. It's awesome.
I believe it's up to 14 ballot styles.
That's so great.
It's my follow-up question to that, just for this board too, is what if the printer fails, right? So that, I think your response essentially was, at that point, we'll have to collect some ballots to bring
Yeah,
in.
we'll be
and-
running back and grabbing.
So, I mean, there is a solution to that, but it is kind of cool to be able to print out specific ballots and, yeah. I'm excited for this.
We always have backups for everything.
That's
You
excellent.
never know.
So we do have a proposition in front of us regarding this. I mean, I'm happy to entertain additional questions if you want them, but also happy to entertain any motions if somebody feels so moved.
I feel moved to make a motion to consider adoption of the resolution designated early voting center and consider approval of an early voting agreement for election services between the city of Mount Pleasant and the Charter Township of Union.
Second.
Motion by Brown, support by Bills. Again, any discussion or debate?
Good work.
It's a no-brainer.
Cody.
And this was went through both Mount Pleasant Legal and Union Township Legal as well.
Well, they had their legal, it was, the state sent us a draft and we had to follow that.
Oh, okay.
And then we sent it to their legal. We did have the manager run through it, make sure everything looked good.
Okay. I just want to make sure the public knows that it's not just we're creating this document, that this is
No.
something that the state's created and it's went through legal review.
Good point.
True.
We all good?
Yeah.
Motion to adopt a resolution designating early voting center and partnering with the city of Mount Pleasant. Would you do roll call of the vote, please?
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Trustee Bills,
Yes.
Trustee Thering,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
and Clerk Cody, yes. All yeses.
Resolution and motion passes unanimously. That brings us to item C on our agenda, 11C, negotiation regarding the manager's 2024 employment agreement. Just quick background that we have an annual contract with our manager that automatically renews. Typical practice has been to visit and make sure that it meets the needs of both the township and the manager. But before we kind of get into that, if we do some cleanup work, at the last meeting, I was absent, and no formal motion was given to accept the township manager evaluation form. So I sent those to you earlier in the week with the comments attached, and so that's also, I put those at your desk. So hope you've had a chance to at least look at those, and happy to entertain any motions to get this in the record.
I'll make a motion to approve the township manager evaluation form for 2023 as presented with comments.
Support.
Motion by Smith, support by Thering. Any additional comments, questions? All in favor of the motion to approve the township manager evaluation form as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Just a note on that, I've given, I can't remember if I give it to our clerk or to Ms. Green. But we have a couple copies over there. The intent, Clerk Cody, was to give you one signed or executed copy for your files, and then give one executed copy to our manager for his files. Is that reasonable?
Thank you for doing that compilation.
Well,
Yes,
thanks
thank
for everybody
you.
contributing. It's not a lot of work. It's kind of fun to do.
I think it's great work you're doing.
Thank you.
I loved your interview. Awesome. On the TV.
Oh, yeah. Everybody get a
It
chance
was
to see that?
great.
Yeah.
You know, it was a,
You're a
I'm
hero.
sorry, it's off topic a little bit, but that was about a 15-minute interview. And I'm like, that's what they picked to put on TV?
2 dinners.
Two dinner. Okay,
Two
I'm gonna
dinners.
make dinner
Yeah,
for
2
everybody
dinners.
at my house. I can't afford to take you out to the places I like to eat. So
Sorry to interrupt your.
It's okay.
Oh my God.
Is the sound off now?
yeah, I turned it on on silent, but those stupid alarms go through there.
Oh.
It's my medicine alarm.
Ah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right. Mr. Stool Dryer, last opportunity for you to provide any additional feedback. I think I left a copy on your desk, is that right?
Yes, this desk.
And I know you've seen everything but the comments. You heard the comments, but I wanted to give you the opportunity, if you wanted to say anything.
I'll just repeat what I said a couple weeks ago. I appreciate the input, enjoy working here. That's all I have.
Very good.
Thank you.
I did watch the last meeting, so. So that brings us continuation, or actually into more of the meat of this. I'm happy to do whatever the board would like to do here.
Well, you said you mentioned, I believe, that you met with manager Stool Dryer, and there were some contract changes he would like to see. I'd like to know what those are.
Sure. Our clerk and I were both in that meeting, so you correct me if you feel I got it wrong. Mr. Stool Dryer, I'm going to try to represent your desires, and if you feel I misstated, please jump in. Is that reasonable?
Yes.
Just let me get my notes up here. Bear with me. All right, so if we look at just kind of the past history, Mr. Stool Dryer was first hired by the township as manager back in 2016, I believe. I have that correct. And since that, there has been a 9% increase in pay over that period of time. And while that's, most of you might think that's a little light, I'll just remind you, we did compensate in a few other ways at various times. We did add, if you looked at the contract, we added a $300 a month car allowance, and we did some extension into vacations. And so there were some ways in which we came to cooperative agreement, but it didn't really see much of a reflect on pay. So I think the first request was to begin to go after that pay discrepancy, and requesting an 11% increase. We currently have 5 weeks of vacation, a request to go to 6 weeks. The contract negotiations that went on between the township and the union and non-union members, as I understand it, they all went from 2 days of PTO or personal time off to 3 days, as well as retirement match from 9% to 9.5%. Mr. Stool Dryer requested that he be matched the same as the rest of the organization on those two items. Did I represent that okay for you?
Generally, yes. In our private, or not private, but our biweekly meeting, you did inquire as to what I was thinking about. You also acknowledged that I don't like to negotiate against myself. And so just the characterization of your characterization, I think, is more of a general characterization. They're not specific asks as it relates to the specific negotiations. So thank you.
Is that helpful?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be happy to make some comments if nobody
Go
else wants
ahead.
to jump in. I certainly think the keeping in match with regards to like personal time off, retirement match, et cetera, that makes sense to mirror the rest of the organization. The 11% increase, I am more than supportive of that. I realize we have not really gone after much of the pay over the last 7 years. And this would bring our manager in more what I think is alignment with what his job title is and what his job is. And I think if we were to have to replace him, we'd be looking at that at least anyways.
In years past, I think so in lieu of pay increases, the manager went for more time off and more car allowances and stuff like that. That was his choice. To me, doing 11%, I'm kind of hesitant on, because now if we would have done the gradual pay raises to reflect what the staff was making at that time, I can kind of see it. He chose, or the board chose, whatever like that, to go a different route instead of going pay. I'm just having some concerns on the 11%.
Yeah, I
Just
wouldn't
my
go for
thoughts.
the whole thing.
That's
this
my
year.
thoughts.
But he has a lot of good things we did in the last few years, such as the, wasn't it 12 or 18 months parachute if he gets fired or something like that, or without cause? Am I right?
Yes,
I
yes,
didn't
For
catch
severance?
yes. If
12 or
we
18.
as a board decide to release him of his duties without cause, we would be responsible for, I don't know if we're at a year yet, but it's like 1.5 months per year, or for every year of service. Which I think, I'm just gonna say we're at that year, which also includes health insurance.
And then the contract you sent us in the email, I don't think that's current, is it? Because isn't the car allowance $350 a month?
It's 300.
Is 300 still okay?
So maybe I will go first.
Okay.
And I'll first provide you some background. It's a true statement. Everything that we've agreed to over the years has been agreed to by both parties. There have been occasions where the board offered more of an increase that I did not want to accept. I declined for various reasons. At least one of the years, it had to do with we had negotiations coming up, and the kind of numbers that were being offered to me, I just thought it was going to make it much more difficult and expensive to get an agreement in place. If you want to take a couple notes, in July of 2016, I was hired at $99,000 a year. That's base salary. And then in 2017, I was paid the same, $99,000. In 2018, it went up to $100,000 even. In 2019, it went up to $104,250, and it remained there for 2019, 20, and 21. In January of 2022, I was making $107,377, and in January of 23, $108,450. Along the way, and I think it was back in 2020, I had been receiving 4 weeks of vacation, and we increased that to 5 weeks. That's when we also added the $250 a month car allowance. There was no changes to either of those in 21 or 22. And in 2023, the car allowance went up to $300 a month. And then we improved the severance language that was in the contract since I've been hired. From just the base salary perspective, we have 7 years, and it works out to an average annual increase of 1.35% over those 7 years. If the board ends up coalescing around something and then it's like take it or leave it, which is the opposite of a negotiation. That's contrary to the documents that we've executed. So I do want to point that out. I understand that I've provided you a lot of information and you haven't had time to digest it yet. On the other hand, we knew that this discussion was going to be taking place for about a month. I have always put the township before my personal needs in every one of these other negotiations. And I feel I'm still doing that today, just as a matter of, from my perspective. I don't think it's in the township's interest to get way behind the market when you're trying to recruit good township managers. The vacation, I came in and it was 4 weeks. There's a ladder in the employment agreement or in the bargaining agreements, depending on years of service and all that stuff. You're not going to bring in a new township manager 2 weeks of vacation. And
See, to me, that extra week of vacation with what he does and the pressures and working nights and everything else, that to me, if it's going to refresh you and keep you going, I'm good with that extra week of vacation. To me, and then I get where he's coming from on if Mark were to decide to leave and we had to look for a new township manager, we're going to be having to pay that new one substantially more. That's just what the market would probably do, and I get that. Where I struggle is past contracts. Now we're expected, both sides got what they wanted in the past contracts, and now it's like we have to jump $17,000 to get to the 125. That's where I'm struggling with. And so that is where my thoughts. I can agree with the vacation, the PTO, and the retirement. I'm just struggling with that large of a pay.
Yep,
So,
that's more than 11%.
so
yeah, 16.45%.
Yeah. That's a big raise.
It's a negotiation.
it is. Yeah, I know. No. And I'm just, but so and this is where I would like to. Okay, you want to say something?
Yeah.
I'll cede the floor.
I'll agree with the 11%, just because it brings them up to 120, and it's still below on the chart. Going with
chart?
what a manager does versus like the city, what you were saying. I mean, if you go with like registered voters, is 3,000 difference. Is what 5,000 people different. I believe that it's about the same money wise. It's like 2, isn't it? We're working on the same mills as the
The
city.
taxable base is different. It's quite a bit. And
They have a lot
The
more,
responsibility is still
Right.
great.
Things. Yeah, I'm just saying
It's
he
not-
does does a lot of other things that are different versus what the city does. But the city has a lot more employees that do the different departments. And I mean, I'm bouncing back and forth all the time between that, the county, the city. I mean, as far as election things and just seeing the different departments and what they do, they have a lot more employees too. But he, as groups, like he does, like this person does this, and then it kind of runs down the ladder. So the same as what Mark is creating here, but he still has more to do and more on his plate. And it's my thought. But I mean, like I said, I'll agree with the 11%, but I think the 16 is high a little bit, in my
Well,
opinion.
I don't know what the other charter township managers are making, in this state. I don't.
It's a hard comparison because some have law enforcement and fire protection,
Oh,
but
they
then,
do.
but then some don't
It's
have
so
the full
hard.
utilities build out system because they're using
Mhm.
something. It's really very difficult to compare the townships because of what they provide. Like right here,
Water, sewer, some
you've
of
got
them
the
don't have.
unique system. It's not like we're a big square township with nothing in the middle. We got to have all this pipes and everything going around the city. You've got all this dynamics going on, which makes it substantially harder to maintain a system, which ultimately falls on the manager. So that is one area where, yes, he's doing more, but also you don't have the responsibility of fire and police either. So there's a trade-off. So trying to go back, it's very difficult to do a comparison like that. And so that would be my, like, a comparison with the county administrator. There's the elected clerk, the elected treasurer, elected, so they're not managing those staff, but they're preparing the budget for the board of commissioners. So it's a whole different dynamic you have there. And then you have the city, which oversees everything, which is a different dynamic. So getting into,
It's hard to compare.
it's very hard
It's
to
very
compare.
hard
So,
to compare.
but I think what is fair and what would it cost us if Mark was to decide to leave?
It probably cost us more.
It potentially could, yes. So that's my 2 cents.
Just a comment with regard to vacation. I appreciate, by and large, when you're out of office, you're still available. We try not to bug you, but that's appreciated. And I agree with Trustee Smith's comments. It's a high demand position, and it's good for you to be able to refresh. So I don't have any sticking points with any of those 3 items.
Am I the only one that was at all the past meetings? Like, I'm one of the original ones that started with you, right?
I'm not gonna call you old, but yeah.
No, that's what I was trying to say is,
Well, I was
so
on
in
the
the past
board.
meetings, I mean, you want me to talk about them a little bit?
I was on the board when we hired Mark,
But then you were gone. when we
shortly
did all
after,
this.
right.
But so, like, he did, and it was 2 times that he had to kind of make his lower, and he's like, I can't do it, being the manager, take a higher pay, and the board was gonna give him more, a substantial amount more.
Yep.
But he couldn't do it because he was under negotiations, and it was just bad timing. That's when, we thought about it, and then we changed it, so it was, not lining up at the same time. But it just,
I wouldn't put it as couldn't do it. He chose not to
well,
because
chose not
he
to
was
because he thought it was wrong.
best for the township.
best for the township,
And
yes.
as Mr. Stuhldreher indicated,
So, I mean,
Some of
even
those
if it was
times-
just COLA going up for the years he was here, it'd be at least 11%. So that's why I would agree with 11,
Trustee Theory,
11% raise would be $120,379.50. So it gets to the adjusted 24 midpoint, a little bit higher. Yes, he's been here, a lot longer than that. Probably should be higher than the midpoint, but at least it gets at midpoint plus.
Trustee Theory,
I do believe this is we need to do a little bit better. And for one, I appreciate all that the manager does, but we also have to think of the position. As the manager has mentioned, as speaking with other people, you got to think about that position, and if we had to hire somebody with experience, could we do that at the current rate of pay? I think it'd be very difficult. I don't want that to be my reason. I would like our reason to be because of the job that the manager does. I do feel there needs to be something substantial, though. In the,
Well, if you're referring to the job the manager does, we've given him high marks.
In everything, like
Right.
above average too.
that's,
And I think
that's
if,
all good
if
talk,
we're,
but let's put our money where our mouth is, in some respects as well.
But it does put them to the midpoint.
Yeah, no, right, I understand.
I mean, would you be okay with that, seeing how we're under negotiation, right?
With what?
With the 11% with the other items that you requested?
How do your colleagues feel about that?
What do you feel about that?
Whatever.
I mean, it's a negotiation. I mean, I would be happy
I could
with it.
support the 11% and the extra week vacation, the extra PTO, and the extra 0.5% of MERS contribution from the township to match what the rest of the employees are getting.
Really, I don't even think of the extra PTO and the 0.5%.
That doesn't even
as
matter.
a-
No, I
to
know,
me,
but
that-
we
that
should
be-
have-
That
That
should
should
be
have been done right
automatic,
off the
but-
bat.
We should,
in
but
my
we still have to put that in the motion.
Yeah,
in
for
order-
sure.
You don't want to be like,
Right,
in not getting benefits unless we officially vote on it. That
right.
would put him in a bad spot.
This is the only time we had to add those, and so it's
Understood.
appropriate.
Right.
So,
And I can agree with Clerk Cody on her amount.
It is
I would
negotiable.
support Clerk Cody's comments.
Is that a,
I
With
could support that as well.
So, Mr. Supervisor, would you like to officially, how do
Well,
we
you
do?
have to ask him if it's a
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying,
negotiation.
if he would officially,
I mean, are you okay with that?
yeah.
With an annual salary of 120,000, what was the number, 400?
it was 123.75 something. It was 11%. I just did 11% on your 108.450.
It's some change after the 120.
With the other three items that you had indicated.
I'm good with that.
I will make the motion then. That's appropriate now. Make a motion to approve contract language that would include 11% pay increase the manager's vacation time from 5 to 6 weeks, the township's retirement contribution to his MERS to 9.5, which also corresponds with the rest of the employees, and increase from 2 to 3 PTO days to also reflect what the other township employees make. And I just want to have that in the motion so that way it spells out clearly to the public.
Or
Motion by Smith, support by Brown. Further discussion?
Do it as roll call.
So I guess what I'm asking this board then is, the motion is to formally give that offer, is that correct?
Yes.
That is,
All right. Is everybody clear on that then? All in favor of the motion given by trustee Smith, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, so you heard all this. So now we're formally offering that.
And I'm happy to accept it and appreciate the spirit that, we went through here. And very happy. So thank you for the consideration.
Thank you
Thank
too.
you.
Thanks for all you do.
thank you for what
I
you
have a
do.
question.
Yes.
So do you bring it back with the changes and then we'll do, because it's changing the contract, so we should do the roll call. with
Execute it.
Execute the new changes? Can we do that or?
Yes, I'll bring back a redlined and a clean copy of the current employment agreement with the changes from 23 to, this will be effective 1/1/24. And then the board can then vote on that. Authorization for somebody on the board to sign it, and then if the board passes it, I will sign it.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Thank you.
That works.
If the board doesn't mind, I'd like to throw a couple thoughts out regarding our process. It just opened ideas here. But in future, would it be reasonable to appoint 2 or 3 trustees to a committee that would be able to go into negotiations with the manager?
I would like that, and I do apologize for when I said I voting on 10 minutes. I do apologize if I sounded kind of gruff with that, so I do apologize.
Well, yes, thank you.
I totally understood with what you were saying.
Yeah, I should have said it a little bit nicer. I shouldn't have said it quite like that, so I do apologize.
Well, I want to make sure you knew that you had the opportunity to.
Yes, I knew
to-
I had the
yeah.
opportunity to. Yes, I do.
I would like that idea. I would like to see something like that. I think
'Cause
that
I-
might help everybody come in when we publicly start going over it. We can. I think this year was the best year we've done as far as our discussion, but I think that might make a little bit better.
And let's. I always like sunlight on everything, but sometimes certain things are much harder to do in a public forum.
Yes.
And it's not that we wouldn't finalize and present in a public forum, but allow maybe the initial negotiations to occur with some empowered trustees that could sit down and talk with our manager to actually give it more of a negotiation type feel.
I would agree
Than
with
we can
that.
create here. So as we get into maybe July of next year, we start looking at that. That group can be appointed by this board. And maybe at that point, they can do their homework, so they're prepared in ways that is tough for the 7 of us together to do this. Yes.
Would the manager be? Would the manager approve something like that?
I will do whatever the board elects to do.
My hope would be that that gets us to at least a good starting place that's negotiated on good faith from both sides.
Sure.
I'd like to know how much the charter township managers make in this state. I
Well-
have no idea.
Some
You
of them
know,
don't
with-
have managers, some have just supervisors.
I know that.
Well, I believe I
But-
sent you the 2019 salary survey, and that'll begin to give you a sense of the relative. There's 11 or 12 comparables. Half of them are cities, half of them are townships. There's a narrative about how they chose the.
When did we get that manager?
I have a
Yeah,
survey.
yeah.
I have
we
one of
got
my
that.
old surveys you can look at, and it has most of the.
I think it was dated June of 19 that they came in. Mark Notley.
Yeah,
They
I
did it
didn't
for
start
the.
till
They did it for the
2020.
whole organization.
I think when
Yeah,
we were,
it was more than just the manager's
Yeah.
position.
Well, I
it was
got
everybody.
that study, but that's 4 years old. There's been a
Correct.
world of changes since then.
The one I have is just
Yeah,
charters.
and that gets back to
I did
maintaining
my own.
the salary system,
When
the salary policy.
the 19 study, was that for the manager and all employees?
Yes.
So
And-
we could do something where we could specify just the manager, possibly next year, and
It
just
all-
do it like that. Since the unions are already under contract for an extended period of time, maybe we could do something just for the managers and see.
the other thing it included too was the elected officials as well.
Ah, that's a good idea.
I think
Because
it's
we do have an election coming up, so if we were to do something like that, you want to do that prior to filing,
That might
if
be a good
ideally.
idea.
Sorry.
it's up, I think that the way we maintain the integrity of the pay scale, pay policy that exists here. We had a study done in 2019, and it said what it said, and we adopted it. And then in the subsequent years, from a negotiation perspective, we've maintained that relative position of the positions between themselves and the distance between steps. All that's been maintained. for the bargaining units and for both bargaining units. And it's been pretty close probably to the market. It's generally inflation, that the scale goes up. People do move through steps though, so an individual's increase is more than just inflation. But we don't do that as formally with the non-union folks, including the township manager. And from a policy perspective, I would think the township wants to have a salary pay scale that is consistent with the goal of attraction and retention. And we do that pretty good for the majority of the positions in the organization, the bargaining group ones. The department heads, they're following along with the supervisory, just because there's nothing else to kind of hang the hat on.
Could we look at possibly putting something in the budget for next year to do a wage study for the manager, for the elected officials, and for the non-union department heads specifically? That way we are making sure we are keeping ahead or on top of. Does that make sense that we would want to look at something like that and just get it in the budget?
Yeah.
I'm supportive of the idea. How long did that wage study take to do last time, from
It was a
decision
lot of money
to
do that, wasn't it?
execution?
It took
I
It
was-
took about a year.
longer, 6 months, give or take, between signing the contract. But they were reviewing job descriptions for all the positions in the
Oh.
organization. I mean, it was so it's going to be considerably shorter, if you wanted to confine it to elected officials and non-bargaining unit employees. That probably would be, I would think, a good idea. A salary study ought to be done every 10 years anyways.
Mm-hmm.
We did one in 19 for the entire organization. We're not too far, a few years. I'll be recommending that we do another one just to kind of touch base to make sure that we're able to effectuate the policy goals of the board.
Okay.
So my concern with, if we were to do elected officials, and I don't know if others are aware of how the law works, but you basically, it's near impossible to lower elected officials' pay, which is weird to me, unless they sign off on it, right? So if I said, I want to lower my pay, and you all voted yes, then we could do that. Does that make sense, right? But if
Yeah.
I essentially have veto power over your own pay, which I always thought was weird, but I guess it's so that you don't gang up on a particular other board member. But my point with this is, if we were to evaluate that and look at the pay scales for trustees, clerk, treasurer, and supervisor, ideally it'd be nice to have those set and voted on prior to the April filing deadline for people that are maybe choosing to run for the spots we sit in today.
Good luck.
Well, I'd
I
say
don't
like
think you're gonna get that
about
done.
4 years ago, the board voted to reduce the supervisor's pay. So I didn't think it was that difficult.
The difficulty we had then was there were a few people that said, well, if I had known. I happened to be on the board at the time,
Yeah.
and one of the things we did was we lowered the supervisor pay from 30,000 down to like 12 or whatever it is now,
Wow.
which I supported, by the way.
Well,
That was a carryover from days past when the supervisor
ran the whole thing.
had to
Yep.
run much more of the show, which is why I supported it, because now we have a professional staff, a professional manager that offloads so much of what the supervisor did back in the day.
So
Yeah,
it
I'd
is-
be interested in a salary survey of elected officials. And I think it would be very good to have, because, well, there's no comparison between 2019 and 2023.
Especially because of COVID. I mean, that changed so much.
The wages at my office went up 70%. So,
Right.
not my wage. My
Well-
wage has gone down
Let
effectively.
me me ask the question out there. What Trustee Smith proposed regarding wage study, correct me if I get this wrong, Trustee Smith, manager and elected officials, so fairly narrow.
And maybe the department heads that
department,
aren't covered
thank
under
you.
union contract.
Is there broad interest from this board on that? I heard from Trustee Bills.
If you look it up, it shows that every 3 years you should do a wage study. That's what it says on
So
there.
you're saying you would support that?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get a head count here. I mean, if we wanted to vote, but,
I think it's a really good
I
idea.
think it's good.
so with that, without a formal motion, would you be willing to begin to prepare for something, say springish? Is that a reasonable request on you?
Yeah. And I'll add,
Is that reasonable?
yeah.
Yeah.
Prepare to have it done by spring, or?
Before the April
At this
deadline.
point, I'm not sure of
I don't
exact
think it
timeline.
can be, but.
And if
Yeah,
the,
it maybe
Try.
can
and
be.
if the cost right now is not too low, just do it now.
Sure.
If we've got money, if there's money available, let's just, start
That's what I
it.
would do.
Start it now if that's, agreeable.
If-
I think what you should hear from us then is that broad support, and if you're able to accomplish it, great.
If it has to be budgeted next year, then do it next year.
Are you okay with this, how it's communicated?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I'll take care of it. I'll get it started. I mean, the last time we did this, we ended up doing it at 19, but I think I broached the issue with some of the players a year or two earlier than that, and I couldn't get anybody to, they were all booked up.
Is
So-
Mark the only one doing it now?
So I can get on somebody's production calendar for early next year by talking to them now. That's what we'll do.
Okay.
Thank you all. Are we good on all this?
Yep.
Yes.
Then without objection, we'll move on to item 12 on our agenda, extended public comment. Extended public comment is restricted to 5 minutes regarding any issue. If you choose to address the public, please state your name and address for the record. And I'm going to ask if anybody happens to be connected virtually.
No, we don't.
And we'll open up an extended public comment at 8:20 p.m. Seeing no one coming forward, let the record show no one was connected remotely. We'll close extended public comment at 8:21 p.m. That takes us to item 13, manager's comments. Mr. Stuhldreher, you have the floor.
Just thank the board for the exercise that we went through a few minutes ago. I do want to, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I will particularly point out the support from Trustee Brown. It was Trustee Brown that a couple years ago offered 8%. That the board was starting to coalesce around, and I declined that. Maybe I shouldn't have, because that makes these, it's like the cable bill, if it never goes up every year, and then it goes up these huge amounts, it's sticker shock. So maybe, I learned a lesson from that as well. So, but I really appreciate the discussion and the support. I find it difficult to doing it, maybe not as difficult, but I wanted to help, so I went first, and that's against my nature. So take it for what it's worth. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Final board member comment, item 14 on the agenda, Trustee Brown.
I'm all set tonight, thank you.
I have something. I received some pretty negative feedback about the fees we charge to the sheriff's department for their new facility and the pavilion to connect to the utilities. And I personally think that the fees were outrageously high also. So I'm going to state that for the record, because I think municipalities that are adjacent to each other should work together. Government agencies should work together when they're in the same community. And I don't think we should be charging humongous fees for connecting to our, I understand about legacy costs and all that, but it's a lot of money. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Trustee Smith?
Just reiterate, I apologize. I came across a little strong at the beginning of the conversation, so I do apologize. It's not the way I'd like to conduct myself in public, so again, I apologize.
Thanks. Clerk Cody?
I volunteered for the cleanup day, and I just wanted to let everybody know that that went great. We had over 200 people coming through. Tara did a great job. All the volunteers did a great job. Just want to thank everybody for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you. It was a good day.
Could I?
Sure.
And I apologize. I mean, back to manager comments. I did want to mention the cleanup day. I'm glad you did, Clerk Cody. This year, because I wasn't paying attention, I had booked a trip to Austin to see my son the weekend of the cleanup day. And then all of a sudden I realized I wasn't going to be here. And so I delegated to Tara to be in charge of that. And she did do a fantastic job. We had volunteers, we had staff, paid staff, but it takes people to pull that stuff off. So I apologize for not mentioning it initially, but Tara did do a great job with that event. So thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Trustee Therian?
Yeah. Again, Tara, very good job. We had all the volunteers we needed, which was awesome. It helped the line flow. I do have a couple of comments. One, we'll take a piano, but you got to bring the people to unload it.
That's good.
I won't. That hurt. You know, the gentleman helped, but do not bring something that big unless you bring about 8 people to pick it up and load it. I mean, we'll take it, but bring the people to, because it just is. It was
Heavy.
that hurt.
Why, did
It
you
did
bring it,
hurt.
Sherry?
The other comment was, I'd never read the sheet. My wife takes care of all that in the respect of making sure I have what I need. But I don't know if there was anything commented on the sheet, but it's either in boxes or bags, or don't bring it. Because we've had a couple of trailers that came in and just things were loose. Big 5-gallon tubs full of water and garbage that we had to dump the water out. So in order to, you know, I will say 99% of the people that came in were 100% organized and ready to go. But it's a bit much when we have to clean their trailer off, because if they pull away, it's all going to blow off all over the parking lot. So just have a purpose with your things that you want to get rid of in a box, a bag, or in something, so that all we can do is just grab and throw. Other than that, it was great. It was.
Thanks. Dang it, that was the one thing I was going to talk about, was that morning.
You can continue, because I'll.
One anecdote, and I probably shouldn't, but I'm gonna. But yeah, thank you, Tara. I thought everything went amazing, and it was car after car after car until about 10:30ish. I mean, it was just nonstop. It was, which makes it go fast. But the piano, I was going to comment on the piano. So we allow like one pickup truck or one flatbed or something, right, that you can bring in, and up pulls this pickup covered with the bed itself is covered, and with a big trailer in the back. And the lady's looking out the window, and she says, just a little bit of cardboard. And we're like, oh, good. Because we were thinking there's a lot here. Do you remember this one, right?
I don't know. The piano.
This was the piano one. She goes, just a little bit of cardboard. And so we're unloading the cardboard out of the back of the of the cab with the bed, and they're like, "Oh, there's more underneath the cardboard." So then we're like emptying out the back of the pickup truck, and she goes, "Oh, we got something in the back too." And then she takes out this one item and says, "How about this?" And then we're like, "Oh, you can get rid of that too." And then do you remember the piano bench? Someone grabbed the piano bench, and everybody's going, "Stop! We're only taking the cardboard and that one thing." And they're like, "Well, now we're thinking about it. Go ahead and take the piano." And I'm like, "Oh, this is bait and switch," is what it was. But it ended up being a good process nonetheless. But you're right.
Somebody
You
could've
bring
gotten
bring
hurt.
a piano.
It
You got to
was-
bring
You bring
a
the
crew.
guy. You bring the manpower.
And it
you
was
bring a piano.
it was sad to see that piano go into
Yeah.
the garbage truck and get demolished. And it didn't make any good music on
I
its way
tried not
out.
to see that piano. I walked away 3 times, and then when they started rolling it out, I went, "Oh hell!"
So,
I don't know if I would have wasted my back on that.
It,
oh,
it. I'm not gonna lie. It hurt.
Teamwork.
I wouldn't, that's a best risk for bad injury. That's just without the particular manpower you need.
I will do one shout out too, not just to all the volunteers. I got to meet Tara's son, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But the individuals that came from Granger that I had the opportunity to work with, I thought their interaction was great. I thought they worked hard. Kudos to them as well. And I'm sure that's
Very
probably
nice
true with the
last
other
year,
stations that
yeah.
I wasn't at. But
Like picking up
One of them was
couches
a
and
return-
just throwing them like they were nothing. I'm like, just the whole couch. Just, I'm like, okay. That was awesome.
so
Right,
success
they got some
again.
good muscles.
I did hear the one comment I heard from a number of people, and I couldn't put a percentage, and I won't even try. Is we should do this twice a year. This is so great. And I will comment also that you heard one?
Once a year.
Oh, yeah. I did hear comments from just virtually everybody that it's a great service. It is tax dollars well spent. And, I know a lot of these people, they wouldn't know what to do with this stuff if they didn't have this outlet.
Yeah.
I was sad to miss it.
Next year.
Oh, yeah.
And with that, happy to entertain any motions for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion by Smith, support by Thering. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned at 8:30 p.m.
What are you showing me?
I don't